Hi. Thanks again for joining me on my program. Now, I want to start off and tell you that we really appreciate it when you do a like or a thumbs up or a share. Whatever you can do to help us to get this word out, it's greatly appreciated. Today I'm going to bring a teaching that I've entitled, What Does Valor Look Like? What does valor look like? If you read in the Old Testament, the story that probably comes instantly to your mind is Gideon. When the angel of the Lord's army met up with him and said, "O mighty man of valor." Now, Gideon, if you know the story, then you'll jump right in. But for those of you that may not know the story, it's found in Judges, the 6th chapter. And I'm going to tell most of the story today. Gideon and his family, Israelites, lived in an area where they were evidently surrounded by many nations. And these nations were their enemies. And they were bigger and stronger and more numerous than the Israelites. Now, the Israelites were farmers in this area, and they had their wheat that they grew every year and their crops. They had their animals, and they were peace-loving people. However, these enemies that surrounded them would wait until all of the crops came due for their harvest, and then they would swoop in and take the crops. Because they were stronger and more numerous, it really wasn't a fair battle at all. They just took all the crops. And this happened year after year. Well, in order to feed the family, Gideon would go out, and my thinking, because of some other things that I read in Judges, I believe he went out in the night. That's my interpretation. I believe he snuck out into the fields at night, and he gathered as much wheat as he could to bring it in. He brought it into the wine press. He was hiding there. He would take that wheat into the wine press and then stomp it out in the wine press. He was threshing the wheat while hiding away from the enemy to try to have food for his family. And that's where the story picks up. This mighty angel of the Lord's army comes in and says, "Oh, mighty man of valor." You know, at that point, I wonder if Gideon went, "Look around. I'm in a cave. I'm in hiding." He didn't feel like a valiant man at that moment, did he? He may have been embarrassed and ashamed to be in that cave threshing wheat. My guess is he wanted to be strong enough to go out there and just beat all those enemies off. But the best he could do was to try to salvage some food for his family. And now, you want to call me a mighty man of valor? Well, where would this angel get this? Well, just to begin with, let's think about what Gideon really did do. He risked his life to go get that wheat. Yes, he came back to the cave, the wine press, to do it, but he risked his life to go do it. You see, God knows who is willing to take a stand. Gideon was. It just wasn't as big as he wanted it to be at that moment. But he was taking a stand. He was doing what he knew to do. He was doing everything he knew to do. But God saw Gideon's heart. Now, the thing I like about this, or that I get from this, is that when the angel of the Lord called Gideon valor, mighty man of valor, at that moment, in the circumstances that we look at, Gideon did not relate to that at all. He couldn't see it. But God knew what he had in store for Gideon. He knew the plans he had for him. He knew the future. God referred to him, mighty man of valor, the man he was about to be. You see, a lot of times, in fact always, God never looks at us according to our current circumstance. He looks at us according to our destiny. Always He calls us from our destiny. We don't do that. We haven't been there. What we do is we call ourselves from our current situation. If your current situation is one that you're ashamed of, a phrase, that I grew up hearing all the time, well, you're just a loser. What if God said you're just a winner? But that's not what I've heard. That's not what I've been called. I don't know that name. Well, then get used to it, because when God calls you out, He calls you out as a winner, as a person of valor, as someone with strength, because He is your backbone. He just looks for those who would take a stand for Him, no matter what. Now, what I mean by that would stand with the Word of God, uncompromised Word of God. It's not always easy, and you may not make friends, but you'll become a mighty man of valor. There's an expression in a phrase that we've used throughout history in Esther. For such a time as this, Esther the 4th chapter, for such a time as this. Well, Gideon was born for such a time as that, or maybe I should say as that. He was born for that season, for God to use him. He had a plan for him. He had destiny ahead of him. But you and I, we are born for such a time as this. There is still a battle to be fought. There is still one to be won. There is still a battle to be won. Whether you're feeling like you're in the cave, just doing the best you can do, and that the enemies are all around you, and you basically are in your cave, God calls you out as a mighty man or woman of valor. Valor doesn't look the same to you as it does to God. Doesn't look the same to me as it does to God. To me, I don't identify as mighty woman of valor. But to God, that's what He calls me. To you, whatever you see yourself, He sees you as more. No matter what you see yourself, He sees you as more. He has destiny and plans for each one of us. And it's for such a time as this. This is the hour. This is the time to stand on the Word of God. To stand for every word that's in here. But if we begin to compromise the Word, He can't use you. And before long, the enemy will have abused you, and you will have nothing that you can understand anymore as right. If you have been compromising the Word, then I encourage you today to bring the Word back, begin to study it, learn it, read it, digest the Word, and then stand on it. And the angel of the Lord's army will come to you and say, "O mighty man or woman of valor." And then He will send you out in the Lord's army. Thank you for staying with me today. I pray blessings over each one of you. God bless you.